Hi.
First of all, it's a tremendous chus for me to be here. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to be able to sit with Chaver and Tov, with beautiful, sweet Jews. Want nothing more than to connect. Want nothing more than to connect to the light of this tzaddik, who's really, like we said, who's throwing a lifeline to our generation. And I want to thank Rebbe for putting this together, for inviting me, for all of you, for being here and for making this possible. It's a very special thing. And the zchus of the tzaddik should stand by all of those who are marking his memory, connecting to his teachings, who are dreaming his dream, who haven't lost sight of his vision, who haven't lost touch with the spark that he saw inside of every single one of us, inside of every Jew until Moshiach is coming. So it's among the most difficult things to choose what to speak about when you're talking about someone who is so colorful, You know, like you think of Aish, you think of many things when you think of fire. And one of the things you think about is all the different colors and the hues and the Aish Kodesh was that in millions of ways. He was so multi-dimensional. There were so many different themes that were recurring throughout his teachings. And to decide, which to speak about for a few minutes when you have the opportunity is incredibly difficult. And I owe the Rebbe so much. I've learned so much from the Rebbe, and I continue to learn so much from the Rebbe. If I had to say, perhaps the most impactful of all of the giluyim, of all the revelations of the tzaddik, of Kaloynimus Kalman, in his sefarim and his teachings that are just for the chaver who aren't that familiar, essentially there are 5 basic sefarim from the Piacezner. Talmidim is the most famous, which includes Shloshim Amarim, 3 more in-depth essays in the back, introductions to Chassidus. So that's Talmidim. And then there is the sefer Eish Kodesh, of course, which maybe is more well known, is known as the Eish Kodesh, by the name of the sefer is also known as the Talmidim. But that's the collection of his Shabbos drushas in the Warsaw Ghetto that were transcribed and buried and discovered by an American soldier. They found the rabbi and sent it off to Yisrael to be printed. Then there's a sefer called Yahrtzeit, which Rebbe Stepsky was reading from earlier. And that's sort of the next step up, in a way, from Chavos HaTalmidim. Chavos HaTalmidim is the first in the series. And then Yahrtzeit, and then toward the end of Yahrtzeit, it's all printed in one volume, you have the very beginning of the third sefer up, which was called Mevo HaShe'arim. You only have the very first prakim of it, and then he wasn't able to complete it. And then in the back, also printed in that sefer Yahrtzeit, you also have Tzad Zeros, which is like a little bit of a diary of the Rebbe, very personal, very, very intimate writings of the tzaddik. We shared last year a little bit, right, his writings about his own life, to himself, about himself. Very, very unique body of literature. So that's Chavos HaTalmidim Eish Kodesh Yahrtzeit, and then you have a sefer called Derech HaMelech. This is maybe the least known of the tzaddik sefarim. It's called Derech HaMelech. It's a very big sefer, very, very. It's a lot, both in quality and quantity. It's a lot. It's really a lot. drashas on the parsha from before the war. Many of them go on for pages and pages and pages, and it's very abstract. It's sort of difficult to track the themes sometimes through all the different parts of the parsha. And then in the back of the sefer you have a collection of various different writings, speeches that he gave. Some of them are in Yiddish. Different. If he gave at a levaya, if he spoke for somebody, the hesped. Inauguration speeches for various different shuls and schools. That's a collection of different essays that he has, and that's printed in the back of Sefer Derech HaMelech, which again is fundamentally on the Torah and Moadim. And in the final sefer, essentially, that makes up the writings of the Piacezner Rebbe, is a tiny, slim, tiny little sefer that's called Bnei Machshava Tova. Bnei Machshava Tova was the tzaddik's guidelines for a very unique spiritual fellowship that he had with, it seems, some of his elite Chassidim, essentially guiding them in the way of, again, Reb Stevsky was mentioning, visualization and activating our mental cognitive capacities for more than just thinking, but for spiritual experience, which is a whole different thing. And that's basically the canon, if you will, the corpus of Piacezner teachings, as those 5 svarim: Chavas HaTalmidim, Eish Kodesh, Ashar Savreichem, Derech HaMelech, and Bnei Machshava Tova. It can take a person a whole lifetime, really, to really immerse himself. Even though it's not that much when you think about it, it's a few svarim. People read many lahavdil, alfavdaz. People read hundreds of books a year. You can make it through, lahavdil. But the palaces of illumination that a person accesses through the portal that the Piacezner Rebbe is inviting us and beckoning us to enter is really it's completely beyond words. It's just impossible to describe the difference. What a light, what a luminary, what a light, tzaddik. I mean, it's so difficult, but if I were to identify the main thing for me, in addition to hundreds of other main things, but just if I could find one main thing that I wanted to speak about tonight, and maybe what makes the tzaddik unique among all of the other tzaddikim, though again there were many ways in which he was unique, was that you find in the writings of the Piacezna the clearest and most straightforward presentation of what it means to be a chassid. What did the Baal Shem Tov try to accomplish? What was the light that the Baal Shem brought to the world? Because already, we know from Rabbi Nachman, we know even earlier from Rabbi Baruch Mezbish, we know that already 1 generation, 2 generations after the Baal Shem Tov, the whole thing had, in a sense, fallen apart. I mean, the Chassidus was growing and growing and growing in quantity, but it became so external, and it became so much about the Bekashas and the Streimels and the Minhagim and this Chassidus and that Chassidus, and that people lost touch entirely with what the Baal Shem Tov wanted. What did he come to say? What was the intention of this tzaddik, and what was his message? And the Piacezner, he was full of love, and he was very gentle, but he was also very sharp. It's very sharp as far as Chassidish Rebbes that are popular at least go. Very sharp. And in his svarim, especially in Mevo HaShe'arim, where he really addresses this, but in the later Prakma Ashar Savreichem, he's very clear that what Chassidus had become was a far cry from what the Baal Shem Tov had intended, and he says so in no uncertain terms. He has one passage where he says, I don't get it with what are you Chassidim exactly? You think you drink l'chaim before Shachris, and Mamaji says, what does it mean to be a Chassid? So I want to read to you just a few short passages from the tzaddik. And the first comes from Perek Gimel in Mevo HaShe'arim. And he speaks about how Moshiach had been visited by the Baal Shem Tov. Is recorded in a letter that he wrote toward the end of his life, describing an aliyas neshama, an experience of an elevation of the soul to the higher realms, to the more inward realms, to the deeper realms. And he wrote this in a letter to his brother-in-law, Rav Gershon of Kittov. And he describes that he asks Moshiach, when are you coming? And Moshiach says, when your wellspring spread outward, when Jews who don't look like Chassidim and Edgeware are coming together to drink arak and sit in the dark, and sing niggunim and connect to that light. This is Moshiach times. This is Moshiach times. See, he says that the whole thing of Moshiach, if you look in the psukim in Navi that describe what the world will look like after Moshiach has come, the psukim describe a state of universal God consciousness. Umala aretz deas Hashem kamayim liyamachasam. Let the whole world be filled with the knowledge of the divine like water covers the ocean bed. Where everybody will just be activated spiritually. Everybody will be awake, eyes open. See, he says the Baal Shem Tov had a task. If his teachings were to bring the world to that place, the Mashiach's coming hinges upon the spreading of the Baal Shem Tov's consciousness, so it must be that the Baal Shem Tov was trying to get people ready. It must be the Baal Shem was trying to wake people up to this higher way of looking at things. It wasn't just about dancing and singing and joy and so on. All of those were tools to get a person out of the standard Olam Hazeh, body-oriented experience of this worldliness, for a person to be able to develop the capacity to connect to something deeper. And so one of the psukim that the Baal Shem Tov was repeating over and over and over again was Malay Chala Aretz Kevoidai, was that the whole earth is filled with the presence of the divine. And he says over here, and I'm just going to read to you, you don't have it in front of you, but just to listen if you can. The Baal Shem Tov's intention was to reveal the presence of the divine. And he wasn't saying this just like on a simple level to teach us a pshat and a pasuk. The Baal Shem Tov's intention was to begin to reveal the sunlight of the Geula. Was to begin to reveal the sunlight of a time of Moshiach. And the Baal Shem Tov understood that if we don't begin to awaken the dawn, like the pasuk says by David HaMelech, right? A'ira shachar, I will awaken the dawn, and the Gemara and the Medrash says that David HaMelech didn't wait for the morning to wake up. He woke up the shachar. Hu ma'ir hashachar. And David HaMelech is you and me. David HaMelech is Malchus, the final sphere, is the final midas, the final generation before Moshiach comes. David Malka Mashiach. So like David HaMelech, the Baal Shem understood, who was a direct descendant of David HaMelech, we have to wake up the dawn. So if we don't do that, and if we don't accustom ourselves to begin to taste the Toyamel Chaim Zachu, already Erev Shabbos, to begin a little bit to taste the kugel and the chalm, that are ready to begin to bring the light of Shabbos while it's still Friday, and we don't yearn to make an early Shabbos. See, he says, we're preventing the dawn of Moshiach from rising. Therefore, the Baal Shem Tov announced and he screamed, and he said, it's not only the prevailing attitude of Jewish mysticism and philosophy prior to the Baal Shem Tov's revelation that everybody knew that there's a world and that there's godliness, and maybe you can even find godliness in the world, and that somehow there's a way of understanding that beyond the physical, maybe there's some spiritual realm, which is the whole purpose of Rashbi, Rabbi Shimon, and Ari HaKadosh. And that upon this hidden reality of spirituality, that the whole world revolves around that, But the Baal Shem Tov came to reveal to the world that the physicality that you want to say that maybe some way, there's a way of looking past it and seeing spirituality, said the Baal Shem Tov, you don't understand. The physicality that looks to you like it's physical, be'emes hakol elikuz. Everything is divine. There is no such thing as nature. There is no such thing as the body. The body is the soul. Manifest in this strata of the framework of God's revelation that we call the physical, natural world. It's all elukus. Utzrichim rak einayim lirais. We just need eyes to be able to see that. Beguf hamiskadesh, and a sanctified body. And then kishat hamistakel l'olam. This is what Piacezner Rebbe wanted, to bring back the aura of the Baal Shem, to move out of just a sort of rote societal, institutional, cultural engagement with this thing called Chassidus. The Piacezner Rebbe wanted to bring it back to what it originally was, the Eish Kodesh, the holy fire of the Baal Shem HaKodesh. He says then when you get to that level and you immerse yourself in these teachings, which are absolutely oxygen for today, everybody should walk around strapped to an oxygen mask and the other side is connected to some sefer from Chassidus. You can't breathe today without the Baal Shem Tov. You can't breathe. I mamish pashut don't know how people survive without the Baal Shem. I can't begin to fathom it. And there are people who ostensibly do, but I believe that it's just on the outside. Because even there's a difference between surviving and thriving, and there's a difference. Everything's relative. But in relation to the levels that a person can reach in Torah, in Avodah, Eina Doime. He says when a person gets to this level at the Mabit El Elikim, you realize when you look at the world, at the Mabit El Elihim, you're looking at God. Ve'elehim alecha, and God is looking back at you. There is nothing else but Him. Les asar panim minei. There's no place devoid of Him. Maloi chala arts kavaydai. That's what it means. The Baal Shem Tov taught. The whole earth is bursting with His glory. Afa artzius halavushva kelim aleim ara kavaydis barachem. It's all there. It's all Him. This here now, this table, these walls. There is nothing called nature. There is nothing called teva. Like Rabbi Nachman also teaches, his mission was to bring back the aura of the Baal Shem. It's all hashkacha. It's all elukus, because there's nothing else but that. And that's the aura of Moshiach. V'hareshis shel umala aretz deya. And with this, the Baal Shem Tov was beginning to prepare Am Yisrael to be able to live like in a Mashiach way. When everybody will come to realize this. The whole thing of the Baal Shem, as the Piacezner explains in the next few pages, we're not going to read it now, but the Baal Shem Tov explains in the next few pages that the whole thing of the Baal Shem Tov was not that there is Or in the Kalim, but that the Kalim themselves are Or. The Kalim themselves are full of light. And I think this speaks to Rabbi Stepsky's point, which is unique. That by the Chassidim, even prior, a little bit it was about bittul, right? You had to be mevatel yourself, and then maybe you can somehow channel the light of Hashem. And by the Piacezner Rebbe, what exactly are you being mevatel? It's coming to the realization that you, with all of your talents and abilities and capacities, and the circumstances of your life, and everything that you encounter in this world, b'chol drachecha, da'ehu. You can activate that. And everything is an avodah. And you are a ray. You are a ray of the sunlight of the divine. You are a ray of that godliness. And our task as parents and educators, as he explains in a special sicha that's like required reading, absolutely required reading for every parent and teacher, which is the beginning, the preface, the akdama to Chavos HaTalmidim, he makes it clear that the job of a teacher and the job of a parent is to encourage the student to reveal that student's unique gift and contribution to Am Yisrael. Sometimes you have parents or teachers who want that their children and their students should be exactly like them. Aside from the fact that the Ishbitzer tells us, obviously HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't sanction such a process because Avram was the midah of Chesed and Yitzchak Mamash was the midah of Gevurah. It wasn't just he wasn't like his father. He was literally in contrast to his father, and that's how it had to be. So the Ishbitzer, the Me'ashilach, says in a sefer, he says that you see from there that children could be very different from parents. Because everybody has their own mission, everybody has their own message, everybody has their own avodah in this world. And the parent and the teacher are tasked with helping the child to reveal that. Again and again and again, you see this lashon in the Piacezner Rebbe. It's not about changing or becoming something other than you are currently. It's about revealing the essence. And when you reveal the essence, it emerges that like every part of me, every part of us is holy. The neshama and the guf and the mundanity and the struggles and the challenges and the darkness and the pain. Malay elukus. That's what the Piacezner Rebbe wanted. I'll just read you one more paragraph. The tzaddik says this is later on. And this is mamish crucial. Page Reish Samach Aleph in Mevo HaShe'arim, listen to this, and this will close. He says, you want to know what a chassid means? Yisoid va'atzmias ha-chassid is bechinas chesed hu. Obviously the word chassid comes from the word chesed. Right? Chassid is one who embodies this trait of chesed. And b'pasach, omahi chesed, so what does it mean chesed, that the chassid embodies this trait? So he says, b'pasach Eliyahu oimrim, in the Zohar Kadosh, Eliyahu Hanavi teaches, chad arik, v'chad ksir, v'chad beinani. The Kadosh Baruch Hu reveals his light in an interplay between three different elements. An element of chad arik, which is the element of expansivity, an element of flow, boundless energy, and that's called chad arik. That's called the long line, the long flow, because it emerges and emerges and emerges ad inkates, infinitely. And then all the way on the other side, as we mentioned, Avram and Yitzchak. So Avram is the midah of Chesed, obviously, is that energy of expansivity. All the way on the other side, you have Chad Ksir. Right? You have one godly revelation that's limited. That's the light of limitation. It's not a non-light. It's a light. It's the light of vessels. So there's the vessels, and there's what goes in the vessels, and then Chad Beinani is the energy of synthesis between the two. Okay. So he says, Arich, what this thing means, long. Hainu she'ena kli misugara kolkach. That's when the vessel, because it has to be a vessel, otherwise there's no arak. Right? I mean, the arak will be on the table, but you can't drink it, unless you're really desperate and nobody's looking. But you have to have a vessel, right? But what it means, chad arech, what it means, that energy of just the complete boundless flow of divine energy, is when the vessel is not so strong. And the light is just saturating the vessels, overflowing. You can't even see the vessel. There's a vessel there, there's a wick, there has to be a wick, but the flame is so powerful that you can't even see the wick. V'chad ksir. What does it mean that something is very, very, short? The short flow of godliness. This is gevura. This is the energy of gevura. The energy of severity, of withholding. Sha'akli shala misu geres. That's when the vessel is very, very strong. V'ayra nistar. And the light is very hidden. Yoiser v'dak ma'at mimenem is galer. And only a little bit is revealing the light, because the vessel is so big, it's so powerful, and it's so all inclusive that you could hardly see what it contains. The Chad Beinani is Tiferes, right? And that middle line is the synthesis between the two, somewhere in the middle. Says the Heilige Piacezner, Amen. Should make a commitment to all of us who are here, who aren't already, to try to connect to the Piacezner Svarim. All of us are super busy. We take 5 minutes. It's all translated. There's no excuse. It's on safari.com. They have all the writings come out translated. 5 minutes to commit yourself. They have all of his writings there. It's free. It just takes time. A commitment of time. He says, Memela, if Chassidim are called Chassidim because of the midah of Chesed, Ein la Hashem Chassidus atzmius megubelas lemer sharak zuhi. He says it's impossible for us to capture what it is to be a chassid because chesed is so all-encompassing, is so powerfully flowing in all directions that it means a million things. Kirak chesed v'izgalihi, but you know what it actually is this. The essential characteristic of the midah of chesed, which overflows vessels. That's what it means to be a chassid. Meaning, shenafshay shala chassid, the soul of the chassid, eina musteres b'hakelim v'chumr yusai. The chassid's neshama isn't hidden. Now they have an expression, he wears his heart on his sleeve. Right? They say that about Americans. We should say about Jews that we wear our neshama on our sleeve. You don't have to look, to somehow find maybe there's some spirituality in this person. We should be overflowing with ruchnius, overflowing. That's what you see first. You see neshama, and then maybe a little bit of guf. This is what a chassid is, not somebody who eats some leftover kugel from somebody, who wears a big shtreimel. It's not. It's overflowing with chesed, with soulfulness. Because to the chassid there is no vessel, right? Like we said before, the vessel is refined, and so the soul is just bursting forth, bursting through. It's all see-through. The vessel is just an illusion. All there is soul. And this is what Rashi says in Gemara Pesachim, Daf Mem, Baal Nefesh, that the definition of a person, sometimes you see in halacha, right, that a Baal Nefesh is machmir, right? Sometimes it's not something that's expected for everyone to keep this halacha, but a Baal Nefesh will be machmir. What's a Baal Nefesh? Says the Baal Shem. Yes, but also says Rashi. The definition of a Baal Nefesh, says Rashi, Chassid. This is a Chassid. A Chassid is a Baal Nefesh. The soul isn't hidden in this person. This person is overflowing. This person is an endless flow of energy. Chad Arik is the midah of chesed. That word, right? His soul is revealed within him. We can say about this person, this person's a Baal Nefesh. Is he the biggest Talmud Chacham? He might not be. Not everybody's cut out to be the biggest Talmud Chacham. Newsflash. They try to convince you otherwise, but that's not everybody's avodah. Some people are meant to sit and learn 24/7. Some people are that's not their particular thing. Maybe they're supposed to be just doing chesed as much as they can. Maybe another person's really good at saying Tehillim with all of his heart and soul. But it makes no difference whether the person's about Torah, whether the person's about Tefillah, whether the person's about Chesed. A Chassid is a Baal Nefesh. That means that whatever the Jew is engaged in, whether it's learning, whether it's davening, whether it's Chesed, whether it's mitzvahs, whatever it is, but the person's overflowing with soul. Overflowing with soul. Nikra Baal Nefesh. This is called a Baal Nefesh. And the Chassid's revealed soul yearns for the divine, like the Baal Tanya, who is mamish unequivocally the Rebbe, of the Piacezner, again and again and again and again and again. He's just straight to the Baal Tanya. He was mamish Lubavitch, even though he didn't come from Lubavitch. It's a very different Chassidus, Polish Chassidus. But he mamish was drawing on the Baal Tanya's revelation. And the Baal Tanya says that what does it mean? Ner Elokim Nishmas Adam, that the soul of the human is God's candle. Says the Baal Tanya the same way. If you look at the candles that we have over here on the table, you'll see that the flame is constantly moving. And sometimes, given the right conditions, the flame is almost jumping up and up and up. Like you see, the flame is rising up, which is why it takes that shape pointed upward. he says the flame is trying to jump off of the wick because it's drawn magnetically to what's called the Galgal Ha'esh. There's some, in the spiritual realm, there's like the source of fire, and everything is drawn toward its source, and the flame is trying to it wants to leave. But the wick is anchoring it. The wick is holding it down. Says the Baal Tanya, this is what it means, Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam. The soul doesn't want to be here. The soul is supposed to strive upward, 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 more connection, less concealment, closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, higher levels of perception, deeper levels of Kedusha and Tara and Limanat Torah and Tefillah, etc., etc. And in so doing, we draw the wick up. We draw the wick up. And we jump, and the ground rises a little bit. And we jump again, and the ground rises. This is Ner Likim Nishmas Adam. And so this is what the Jew does. He's yearning, full of yearning. Anything that he could do, that he could find, he grabs hold of to draw closer to Hashem. And he goes beyond the letter of the law. He spends time before davening in shul. Any little bit that he could figure this thing out. How to reveal his soul. And then Memela, he finishes, such a Jew whose soul is revealed. The Bechina also from the Baal Shem Tov, Sur Meirah, is not a separate thing. You don't have to battle with the darkness. According to the Baal Shem Tov, echoed in the Baal Tanya, echoed in all the tzaddikim, and predominantly in the Piacezner, the way to get rid of darkness is to strike a match. Ma'at mina or, says the Baal Tanya, doicha harbi mina choshech. So the Baal Shem Tov said, sur meirah, a person wants to get away from the lower base drives, tendencies, whether it's in midas, whether it's in taivas, or whatever a person is dealing with. Sur meirah, through asay tov. Through asay tov. Reveal the soul, reveal the soul. And when the soul is overflowing, then the vessel just disappears. And it's revealed that Mimala Kalman, HaKadosh Baruch Hu fills the vessel, but also Saiviv Kalman, but also surrounds the vessel. And so it turns out that the vessel is just an illusion, because there is no such thing. So this is the dream, this is the hope, that we shouldn't turn our back on the gift of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everybody today is complaining. We have so many different issues in Frumkeit and Yiddishkeit, everything's falling apart. And the rate of this and the rate of that, and kids, struggling, and adults struggling, and etc., 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 etc. To bring another tzaddik into this, and with this one mamish close, Rav Kook, Zchus Yagun Aleinu, he was mamish, he was a chassid. He was a real chassid, but for real, Rav Kook. Everybody else sort of spoke about it. He believed it. He really. And Rav Kook said that God already gave us the remedy. And it's called the Baal Shem Tov, and it's called Pnimiyas HaTorah, and it's called an entire universe of Torah literature that is right there on the shelf. It's waiting for you. I mean, it's totally accessible. Like we said, most of it's been translated. Hashem sent the Baal Shem Tov to the world. And he says we ignore this remedy at our great peril. It's a remedy. It's healing. It's mamash a cure. So my bracha to me and my bracha to all of us and to all of Am Yisrael is that we should continue to connect to those lifeguards that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent, because we're all drowning and Hashem sent lifeguards. And if because of whatever hashkafa or ideology or shita that is sepasnish for us, to sort of like let the lifeguard grab you, so then we can't really complain, because there are lifeguards. The Dagam Achne Ephraim says that's what it means. Mincha pshuta lekabel shavim. God's right hand is outstretched to grab hold of shavim, those who want to return. So what's this right hand of God? God doesn't have hands. What does it mean? Says the Dagam, make no mistake. These are the tzaddikim. Hashem sent compassionate tzaddikim who were moiser nefesh. They didn't have to do this. They didn't have to produce svarim and svarim and svarim. Trust me, they could have found better things to do with their time to continue in their own avoid, in their own meditation. They did it for us. They painstakingly recorded their giluyim, their hasagos, and they presented it, especially in the case of the Piacezner, on a silver platter. And they said, here it is, guys. Here it is. We should be zeicha to allow the Piacezner to grab us and to pull us to shore. And on that shore, Be'ezras Hashem, we'll be able to, mamish like the Bnei Yisrael after the Yam Suf, we'll be able to sing Az Yashir, the song of Tchias HaMesim, on every level. The song that's sung when a Jew feels that he's been brought back to life. The song that's sung when the Jewish nation feels that it's been brought back to life. The song that's sung when redemption is felt. When we can say, Ve'aminu ba'Hashem, that we believed in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we really came to feel His presence, to know Hashem, because Uva Moshe Avdai, because He gave us tzaddikim, and we were humble enough to receive the gift that He wanted to give us. That's my bracha to all of us. Chusa yagin aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Amen. Let the light of Moshiach continue to dawn. Be'ezras Hashem. Hashem, when they hear good news and B'suras Tovos. Not really. And there are two niggunim that are called Piacezna niggunim on YouTube. One of them happens to be mine, but they aren't his niggunim. They're not his niggunim. I made up a niggin years ago on the Piacezna's Yahrtzeit. I'm happy to sing it, but nobody knows how to do it. So, but you'll learn it, I guess. Okay, sure. I'm happy to sing that. I don't know if that's what you meant, but there is another one. But okay, it goes like this. Like this. Sing it one more time. Let's take it up one key. Now that everybody knows it, please join me strong. Let's sing it together. Piacezna. It's nothing to do with the pain. Maybe it does. I don't know. I guess it does. It came down on his Yahrtzeit.
Oh, must be. It's his niggunim.
Okay, let's do one last niggun.
La 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 la